Hello everyone. I'm showing you this little birdhouse. It has some Carolina wrens in it, and maybe it's the man and the woman, will show up and feed the babies. But at night, after they hatch, they don't return to the nest to sleep with the babies. That freaked me out one night because I knew she was in there all day and he was coming to feed her and everything, but then there was a time where I heard the babies, so I went to look and there was no mother, and it was after dark. So I Googled it, and it said that, yeah, they don't sleep in there after they've hatched. So I was listening to Romans, again, the King James Version by Scorby, I think, which doesn't have the text rolling as he's speaking. So, if you like to read along or to pause it and rewind, if you heard something and you want to hear the text, then you'll have to find another. Bob's, come on. You'll have to find another King James Version, or yeah, you heard me out here talking, didn't you, Bob? It's just Mommy on the phone. Yes, hi, Dad. Anyway, you guys, Romans, the book of Romans, to me, if you listen to it like all day long, several times, whether you're paying attention or not, if you can't listen to it all day long, I get that. But even other versions or reading the commentary, I was saying that in my other videos about reading the commentary on this, that, and the other. Wouldn't it be funny if we read the commentary only on the whole Bible? Who would need a study Bible anymore, really? You just carry around a Matthew Henry commentary, which commentates the King James Version. The Matthew Henry, you can Google him. He might have lived in the 17 or 1800s, maybe 1900s, early. I'm sure it was the 17 or 1800s. So he was very, he's very trusted with his commentary. So, they're always busting Sarah's chops for laughing at God telling her, overhearing God telling Abraham she's going to have a son, and she laughed. Well, in Genesis 17:17, Abraham laughed, and he laughed so hard he fell on a rock and started laughing his face off. Nobody ever talks about that. I don't know who laughed first, but because later on down in chapter 17, obviously Ishmael didn't get circumcised because, wait a minute, did I say Genesis or Exodus? Okay, wait a minute. In Genesis 17, later on down, it says how Ishmael got circumcised at 18 years old. So this is Abraham. So God obviously didn't tell Abraham to get circumcised until way after the fact of Ishmael being born. Now, if you go to Exodus 4, verse 24, Zipporah, Moses' wife. I read that one day a couple years ago at work in Texas, and I was reading it actually to Patrick because I was reading it. I gave him a Bible. I gave him a Dake's End Time Study Bible. Dake's Bible, I think, is the Bible. They believe in the rapture. It's a very old translation or commentary, I think, or something like that, a study Bible written by Dake of the King James Version in accordance to the rapture. So it's this big old black leather Bible that's in a box, and he still has it in the box, and he never reads it, but every now and then I would pull it out and read it. And don't know what I was doing, but I ran across Zipporah in Exodus chapter 4, and I was freaking out. I'm like, God is about to kill somebody. Because the way it reads, it says, and the Spirit of God came upon, and he was about to kill. Because Moses didn't circumcise his son Gershom yet. His son Gershom by Zipporah. Now, I just Googled it again, and they're saying, because I didn't use a commentary, I didn't know who God was trying to kill. I didn't know if God was about to kill the baby. I didn't know if God was about to kill, I think the way I read it at that time, I think it sounded like God was about to kill the baby. But when I read this commentary, it's saying that God was about to kill Moses for not circumcising that baby right away, right then. Hold on. This is that Podiarch. I still don't know how to say it, and I don't care. Anyway, so I thought I'd just give you guys a couple of those little trivia things that I don't ever hear them talking about that, and nor the man saving up so that he can go without working for a whole year. I haven't looked that up again yet, so that he can get to know his wife. And then, yeah, Abraham laughed. And I forgot about that, but I knew that. And I always wondered, why are they always bringing up Sarah laughing? Abraham laughed first, and that was even before the 3 men came to him to sit with him, where Sarah was in the tent cooking the food for him, and she overheard them. One of them was God. He was talking to them about Sodom and Gomorrah, I think. And so Sarah overheard them. In Genesis 17:17, that was before that visit. God told Abraham, you're going to have a son. And he laughed. And later on down in the chapter of 17, it talks about the circumcision, how Abraham needs to now circumcise Isaac after 8 days, I think. I haven't read it all. But, yeah, isn't that scary about God? Well, God, killed whoever who was carrying the Ark of the Covenant, whoever that guy was, but God killed that guy, or all of them, or something like that, because they were holding it wrong. That's what I read. I probably looked up a commentary, and they knew better than to carry it the way they were carrying it, and they carried it wrong, and so they got or the guy touched it. That's what it was. He touched it, and so, but because it was tilting and tipping, and it didn't want it to fall, but they weren't supposed to be carrying it like that in the first place. So that's what I read, is why it wobbled. So they knew they weren't supposed to touch it. That's why they had it, I think, on sticks. Maybe because it was too heavy, but there's a certain way, and I forgot what they said about how to carry it, but there's a certain way. And he also killed all those who, touched the mountain. But the way it reads in Exodus 4:24, it was scary sounding, because it sounded like they were just by themselves together, or somebody was alone with the baby. Maybe it was Zipporah. I hear him now. I am tweeting about. Well, anyway, the way it reads is so terrifying, because the Spirit of God, it's something, whatever they describe God as, but they said God himself. It says in there God, whether it says the Spirit of God or God, I don't know. But it said God came in there, was about to to kill. It uses the word kill, I think, not slay or anything like that. And I don't want to fly to get in this. So so it sounded so scary. Is she there? Yeah. Isn't that cute? You might can hear him screaming. I don't think so. And there's my ashtray, my fancy ashtray. And I've cut back. But then it said God came in and was about to, he was that close. And then Zipporah ran and got it and cut it off and threw the foreskin at Moses' feet and said, "You're a bloody bridegroom to me." She was mad. So isn't that crazy? Cool. It's like scary cool, I guess. And then the rest of the commentary talks about, God is a severe God. And then even Romans, oh, the goodness and the severity of God. And then I'm listening to Romans on audio, King James Version again. And you know how I've explained how Romans seems to be a one long sentence. Long sentences upon long sentences and not even chapters. So when everyone quotes this Paul saying, "Oh, I do what I don't want to do, and I don't do what I do want to do, and oh, what a wretched," you know what? He's really not even talking about himself if you just keep listening to it over and over or reading it over and over. He's basically saying it as in mankind. He's not saying it as in he himself is like that. He's saying we're all like that. Because it's part of a long dissertation. And people want to, we pick verses, yeah. But when we do that for so long and we're, picking a verse for so long, singularly, we lose the whole. He's talking about all mankind, in which we already know that, even though the verse is picked out and out. But over time, it's been picked out and singularized so long that we think it's Paul saying that. So we're like, oh, I can relate. Well, no, he's not really talking about himself. He's saying he and all of us are like that. He's saying all of us are like that. He's just saying I, as in I'd say, when I'm not really speaking to only you, one person. I'll say, everybody knows, So that's what Paul is doing. Basically, all is what he's saying. And I love chapter 9. You ought to read that. So good. Reminds me of the verse, unless this is the verse, "Not to him that willeth, nor to him that runneth, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord." I don't think that is in Romans 9, but he's saying something similar, kind of like he's explaining it all. He's saying, and Romans to me is a mini compilation of all those books outside of the Gospels, all those books in the New Testament outside of the Gospels and Revelation. But it seems like it's compilation of them all. And that's why I do love it. It's talking about salvation. It's talking about works. It's talking about all this. And then, of course, and the Romans and the Greeks were into that theology stuff, right? They were all into this. So when he's writing this to Romans and maybe Greeks, if they're compiled in the same lump, he's writing to the Romans and using their minds, the way their minds think. So he's trying to be extremely technical and covering all bases, because these Romans and these Greeks, who aren't Jews, they're pagan, they're heathens, they're Gentiles. They're not Pharisees, which are Jews, which are unbelieving. But these are Gentiles, heathens that are unbelieving. So then, I just feel like it's a compilation of everything that you would need to know. Usually they start singing and chirping over there on the banister before they swing on up there. Anyway, I just thought I'd give you guys a little thing about that. And Romans is so cool. Yeah, Romans 9 talks about, why does the vessel say, you made me thus? You made me thus. You make some vessels for honor and some for dishonor. Meaning some are for destruction, dishonor. He's talking about Pharaoh. He creates these vessels of destruction, you guys, so that he can show his glory. I love that verse. I love it. Because we don't know, walking around the earth, have we given birth to a vessel of destruction who's going to grow up to be Hitler or Obama? Or I shouldn't say that. Or whoever else, that God might be, like, what did I quote one day? Proverbs 16:4. The Lord has saying the same thing. I have created this for the day, and the evil people for the day of destruction. They're basically, we don't know who they are. I mean, sure, we call them worldly, unsaved, whatever, but maybe yeah, I think I might have been wrong about the wheat and the tares, but like some verses, they get kind of cherry picked, and we can, how does this not spill? We can use them in a variety of different ways. Kind of like I've quoted Psalm 50, and down there somewhere it says, but you listen to the devil and the thief. You listen to the thief. Well, I can translate that by saying, if I'm believing what the thief is telling me. So, yeah, we can take verses and kind of have multi-purpose them, as long as they're not out of context, out of the context of the story and such, if you know what I mean. So the wheat and the tares, yes, you can be like, well, yeah, it is the evil, and in the end, the world is going to be destroyed by fire. That's why he bundles them up, and he does say in the end. But I don't know. That's so. I had not read it in so long, but just growing up in church, that's kind of what they taught us, that the tares are in the church, but let them grow together. And I just never really, but as I read it and read beyond, and Jesus, the disciples didn't even understand. And out of the 3 parables he was telling them, they asked him what that one meant. They didn't really ask him, well, we don't understand what, I didn't read farther down, so maybe they did end up asking. So, my ears have been like, what is that, muscle spasm stuff? They feel like they're in the inside, they're like muscle spasming. They're like vibrating. It's not affecting my hearing. I just feel like they're inside going, like, flexing. Not that your ears can do that, but they've been doing that kind of since yesterday, and I'm wondering if it's like some parasites dying off. And yeah, my dog has gotten in my trash before, in the bathroom trash, the little short basket of trash, because I have a septic tank, I don't, well, this sounds nasty. Anyway, so if he gets in my trash in the bathroom, what if he's got parasites? Because and then I have a septic tank, so you can't, like, keep on flushing toilet paper all the time. And, of course, cats, they say. So, yeah, before long, well, this is going to be a 6-week long process drawn out. So before it's all said and done, or before it's a 2-week break, you kill them off for 2 weeks, then you wait 7 days for them to, if they're gonna lay some more eggs. Then you take the other bottle for 2 weeks and kill those off. So I'm thinking that 7-day period after the 2 weeks, I need to go get my animals in to get them checked and whatever, inoculated for parasites. So I don't just keep reinfecting myself, right? Or, it could be harming my animals. It sure could. And I don't know if they're gonna, as far as I know, the same parasite killer for humans kills them all. Hopefully the same thing for the dogs. The same medicine that kills one kills them all, because there's hundreds of kinds. And I don't think all of them, but if they kill the basic kinds, then yeah, because I've got one cat, Big Angel. She does not like to be brushed on her body. I don't know why. She'll scream and like she's in pain. So I don't know if she has any organ damage, because she did almost die when she was a kitten. She was playing around in this front flower bed because she followed me around like a dog. And like my little Shih Tzus that I had still alive. And she followed me around. She was playing over there in the jonquils that were sprouting up. They weren't bloomed yet, but even the foliage is deadly. It is deadly. There's no way to save your animal once they bite into it. She wasn't eating it. She bit into a jonquil, a daffodil. Oh, sorry, Bob. Bang, bang. He hates banging. A daffodil blade. They were sprouting up, and she was playing around in them. She must have bitten on one, and I didn't know this at the time. I didn't take her to the vet because I didn't know this at the time, but I figured it out later. She never went near them again, but I Googled that and found out, and if they just take one bite, don't even chew it or eat it, it will kill them. And she was dying, and I didn't take her to the vet. She was still a kitten, like maybe an older kitten, adolescent, but I fed her goat milk with a syringe. She let me. I let her lay in the bed. I squirted, every few, because she wasn't drinking or eating. So every hour or so, I was squirting as much as she could drink, depending on what she was drinking. I would do it every 30 minutes or whatever, but I would do Pedialyte, bone broth, which do not buy the store-bought human-grade bone broth for animals, ever. But I already had some. I had the animal bone broth that I had given my dogs. I had Pedialyte, which I would freeze them in ice cubes. So every now and then put it in their water, the flavorless. And so and goat milk. And because goat milk and camel milk, or probably sheep milk, is a superfood. You can go without food for a long, long time and live off goat milk or sheep milk if you're in that part of the country, or you can live off camel milk, meaning in that part of the country if you have camels. So, or sheep probably. So yeah, it's a superfood. That means that you don't have to have food if you have no food. All these preppers want to prep for stuff, but what they should be stocking up is goats so they can drink that milk, because you can go without food and water for months, I think. Anyway, she came back to life. She came back to life. Praise God. That was a miracle. And I think it damaged her, and so now she gets these urinary tract. I have to feed her this special cat food. I used to feed her From, F-R-O-M-M, which is excellent. The cat's poop never ever will stink again. Never again will your cat's poop stink. Plus you need to buy them the pine litter pellets. That's never will stink. Their urine will never smell. And you don't have to worry about picking up the urine. So anyway, yeah, the From cat food, they didn't have a bladder version, or if they did, it was too expensive. And I have to feed now both cats on this bladder urinary tract cat food because, and their poop still doesn't stink that bad because I think the first few years of their life they were eating from cat food and it just biologically changed something. So their poop doesn't, every now and then it will, I guess, if they caught a whatever. So yeah, she gets these urinary tract infections, and also I don't feed them any kind of fish flavored, nothing. It's only chicken, because especially orange cats are very susceptible for some reason. I've heard so many stories of an orange cat getting urinary, male, female, or bladder infections when you feed them things like tuna, salmon, anything fish, gives them these bladder infections, urinary tract infections. You need to feed them chicken-based food only, no fish, zero. So I knew that about the orange cats. Mine aren't orange, so I just don't feed them any fish like that flavor. They don't even like fish. If I've accidentally and it comes in and it's fish, or I bought the wrong thing, they don't even eat it because they don't like it. They're not used to it. Anyway, okay, love you guys. And yeah, reread Romans or listen. It explains everything about everything. Your freedom in Christ, your freedom from the law, the reason why the law, the meaning. It explains don't judge. Oh no man, nothing but to love him. It explains that. It explains about the Jews. It is such a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful book. It's kind of hard because he's talking to Romans who are very, is it philosophical? They were always pontificating. What are those people called? Where they're always pontificating. Worse than the Pharisees pontificated. They were always pontificating. They were about paganism. They were always philosophizing. So because they were that way, Paul had to speak to them in a very philosophical, la-la-la-di-da, very distinct, direct, clear way and cover all the bases with those philosophical-minded Gentiles. All right. God bless you all. Love you. Bye.